There is a wall being built around the middle class. You cannot see it, you cannot touch it. But every time you go to the grocery store, every time you open your utility bill, and every time you look at your savings account, you feel it closing in. We are told the economy is recovering. We see headlines about GDP growth rebounding to 2.2% in 2026. We see the stock market hitting record highs. We see politicians celebrating the resilience of the American consumer. But if the economy is doing so well, why does it feel like you are falling behind? The answer lies in a phenomenon economists call the Great Divergence. It is the defining economic story of our time, and it is about to reach a breaking point in the year 2026. This is not a recession where everyone suffers together. This is a K-shaped reality. On the upper arm of the K, those who own assets, who understand the system, and who have access to capital are seeing their wealth grow exponentially. On the lower arm of the K, the path the majority of people are on, finances are not just stagnant, they are deteriorating. In 2026, a perfect storm of systemic pressures, policy expirations, and technological shifts will collide. We are facing an environment of stagflation lite, where inflation eats your raise before you even get it. We are facing a policy shock that could instantly drain thousands of dollars from your wallet. And we are facing a behavioral paradox that keeps us trapped in a cycle of consumption and debt. Most people will stay broke in 2026, not because they are lazy, and not because they lack ambition. They will stay broke because the system has been engineered to extract value from their labor while inflating the cost of their survival. Welcome to the Financial Coin Historian. Today, we are going to dismantle the illusion of recovery. We are going to analyze the numbers the news won't show you. We will look at the expiration of the ACA subsidies, the persistence of the 6% mortgage, and the AI threat to the white-collar workforce. And most importantly, we will show you how to break the cycle. Because in a divergent economy, you have only two choices. You can be the fuel for someone else's wealth, or you can build your own fortress. To understand why 2026 is a trap, we must first look at the environment we are walking into. The forecasts for the coming year paint a picture that is deceptively optimistic on the surface, but toxic underneath. Economists are predicting a rebound in U.S. GDP growth to approximately 2.2%. Job growth is expected to remain solid. On paper, this looks like stability. But when you peel back the layers, you find a condition we call Stagflation Lite, the Erosion Tax. Stagflation historically means high inflation and high unemployment. Stagflation Lite is different and in some ways more insidious. It is a state where inflation remains sticky, persistently hovering above the Federal Reserve's 2% target, likely staying at 3% or higher, while wage growth slows down. Think about the math of your life. If the cost of living, your rent, your food, your insurance, rises by 3%, but your paycheck only grows by 2%, you have taken a pay cut. You're working the same hours, doing the same job, but you are 1% poorer than you were last year. This is the erosion tax. It is invisible. It doesn't appear on your pay stub, but it compounds year after year. In 2026, forecasts indicate that the Consumer Price Index, CPI, will remain elevated. This means the price of essentials will continue to climb, forcing households to spend a larger percentage of their income just to maintain the same standard of living. The high cost of capital. Adding to this pressure is the cost of money itself. For over a decade, we lived in an anomaly, a world of near zero interest rates. That world is gone, and it is not coming back in 2026. Forecasts suggest that the 30-year fixed mortgage rate will stabilize between 5.9% and 6.5%. While this is lower than the peak of the recent crisis, it is historically high for a generation addicted to cheap credit. This creates a housing trap. With mortgage rates hovering near 6%, homeownership, the primary vehicle for middle-class wealth creation in America, remains mathematically out of reach for millions. This forces potential buyers to remain renters. Research shows that when people are forced to rent, they are subject to rent inflation. Every dollar spent on rising rent is a dollar that cannot be saved, invested, or used to pay down debt. It acts as a forced pay cut, dampening consumption and preventing the accumulation of equity. Furthermore, this high cost of capital applies to your debt. Credit card interest rates are at record highs, often exceeding 20%. In a stagflation-lite environment, carrying debt is financial suicide. The interest payments consume the very surplus capital you need to escape the trap. While macroeconomic trends erode your wealth slowly, policy changes can destroy it suddenly. In 2026, millions of Americans are facing a specific, scheduled financial shock that very few are preparing for. It centers on the Affordable Care Act, ACA premium tax credits. The expiration event. Under the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, these tax credits were temporarily enhanced to make health insurance more affordable. These enhancements are scheduled to expire at the end of 2025. Unless Congress acts, and in a gridlocked political environment that is far from guaranteed, 2026 will see a massive spike in healthcare costs. The data is alarming. The expiration is estimated to more than double the annual premium payment for subsidized enrollees. We are looking at a 114% average increase. In real numbers, the average annual premium for a subsidized enrollee could rise from $888 in 2025 to $1,904 in 2026. The budget breaker. Let's contextualize that. For a household already living on the margins, an unexpected bill of over $1,000 is catastrophic. Take an individual earning $28,000 a year. Currently, their net premium might be around $325 annually. Where does that money come from? It comes from the grocery budget, it comes from the emergency fund, or more likely, it comes from a credit card. This is a non-negotiable financial shock. You cannot negotiate with the insurance company. You cannot simply choose not to have health care without risking bankruptcy from a medical emergency. This policy shift effectively neutralizes any raise or bonus a low to middle income worker might receive in 2026. It resets their financial progress to zero. Insurers are already preparing for this. Anticipating that healthier, younger people will drop their coverage due to rising costs, insurers are filing for median premium increases of 18%. This creates a death spiral of rising costs and shrinking coverage, trapping the middle class in a cycle of medical financial vulnerability. The trap of 2026 is not just about what you spend, it is about what you earn. And the relationship between your hard work and your paycheck has been broken for a long time. The decoupling. Since 1979, productivity in the United States has grown by roughly 60%, while hourly pay for the typical worker has grown by less than 15%. This is the productivity pay gap. Workers are producing more value than ever before, thanks to technology and efficiency, but they are not capturing that value. Where is it going? It is going to capital, it is going to shareholders, to executive bonuses, and to stock buybacks. In 2026, this gap will widen further due to the explosive adoption of artificial intelligence, the AI threat to the white-collar worker. The forecasted economic expansion for 2026 is heavily supported by investment in AI and automation. Headlines will cheer this as innovation, but for the workforce, it represents an existential threat. The World Economic Forum estimates that AI could displace 85 million jobs globally by 2026. But unlike previous waves of automation that targeted factory workers, this wave is targeting the middle class. It is targeting the accountant, the copywriter, the mid-level manager, the coder. Research indicates that educated white-collar workers earning up to $80,000 annually are among the most vulnerable. This creates a labor surplus in skilled sectors. When AI can do the work of 3 junior analysts, companies stop hiring junior analysts. This suppresses wages. Even if you keep your job, your bargaining power is gone. You cannot demand a raise when an algorithm can do your job for a fraction of the cost. This is the structural engine of the K-shaped recovery. The companies deploying AI, the top of the K, will see record profits. The workers competing with AI, the bottom of the K, will see wage stagnation and insecurity. We have discussed the external traps, inflation, policy, and AI, but we must also address the internal trap. The reason most people will stay broke in 2026 is not just because the system is rigged, but because they lack the resilience to withstand it, the fragility of the household. Financial security is about resilience. It is about the ability to take a punch. And right now, the American household has a glass jaw. Data shows that 24% of Americans have no emergency savings whatsoever. The median emergency savings reserve stands at a critically low $500. Think about that. $500, that is less than the cost of a set of new tires. It is less than a single visit to the emergency room. It is less than half of the potential healthcare premium increase we just discussed. When you have no liquidity, every minor problem becomes a financial disaster. A broken car transmission isn't just an inconvenience. It forces you to borrow. And because you are desperate, you borrow at the worst possible terms, on credit cards with 22% interest. The consumer vulnerability paradox. This brings us to the consumer vulnerability paradox. Even when people do get a little extra money, a tax refund, a bonus, they often fail to save it. Why? Because of lifestyle creep. As soon as income rises, spending rises to match it. We upgrade the car, we subscribe to more services, we eat out more often, we normalize the luxuries until they feel like necessities. This is compounded by loss aversion. Psychologically, the pain of losing a lifestyle feels twice as bad as the pleasure of gaining it. So when inflation hits, instead of cutting back, people use debt to maintain their standard of living. They refuse to accept that they are poor, so they borrow to pretend they are rich. In 2026, this behavior will be fatal. With the cost of debt so high, financing a lifestyle you can no longer afford will drain your future wealth faster than you can earn it. The picture I have painted is bleak, but it is not hopeless. The divergence means that while many will fall, some will rise. You can choose to be on the upward arm of the K, but it requires a radical shift in strategy. You must move from being a passive consumer to an active financial strategist. Here's the blueprint for surviving and thriving in 2026. Step 1. The debt avalanche. You cannot build wealth while paying 20% interest to a bank. It is mathematically impossible. The highest risk-adjusted return you can get in 2026 is paying off your credit cards. If you have debt, you are shorting your own future. You must adopt the debt avalanche method. List your debts by interest rate. Attack the highest rate with every spare dollar while paying minimums on the rest. This minimizes the erosion tax and stops the bleeding. Step 2. Liquidity is king. In a volatile environment, cash is not trash. Cash is options. You must build an emergency fund that is not just $500, but 3 to 6 months of expenses. But do not leave it in a checking account earning 0.01%. That is losing money to inflation. You must utilize high-yield savings accounts, HISAs. With rates currently around 4 to 5%, your cash can maintain its purchasing power while remaining accessible. This liquidity prevents you from falling into the debt trap when the policy shock hits. Step 3. Systematic investing. You cannot work your way to wealth in an economy where wages lag productivity. You must own capital. You must own the things that are going up in value: companies, real estate, technology. But do not speculate. Do not chase meme stocks or the latest crypto hype. That is gambling, and the house always wins. Adopt systematic investing. Dollar cost average into diversified index funds. Buy the entire haystack, not the needle. By investing consistently, regardless of the headlines, you remove emotion from the equation. You capture the productivity growth of the economy, the top of the K, without exposing yourself to the ruin of individual stock picking. Step 4. The skill. Hedge. Finally, you must hedge against the AI threat. You must invest in your own human capital. The jobs that will survive 2026 are those that require high-level critical thinking, emotional intelligence, and complex problem-solving, things AI still struggles with. Upskill constantly, make yourself indispensable. In an era of labor surplus, competence is the scarcest currency. The year 2026 will be a defining moment. The Great Divergence will separate the prepared from the unprepared, the owners from the owers, the resilient from the fragile. The system is full of barriers. The stagflation, the policy cliffs, the debt traps, they are real. They are designed to keep the majority in a state of financial precarity, living paycheck to paycheck, fueling the engine of the economy without ever sitting in the driver's seat. But now you see the walls. You see the trap. And once you see it, you can dismantle it. You can reject the lifestyle creep. You can destroy the debt. You can build the liquidity. You can own the assets. Most people will stay broke in 2026 because they are playing a game they do not understand, with rules that are written against them. But you have the playbook. The divergence is coming. Which side will you be on? This is the financial coin historian. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And the rhyme of 2026 is clear: adapt or be left behind.